out of interest, but are you guys aware there's like a pretty huge civil war going on all across America?
Oh, sure, but we just try to stay out.
We are Lower Gentry Studios, and we are here today to review the new movie Civil War by Alex Garland. I'm Zoe Kelly.
I'm Chuck Norton.
I am Elliot Norton.
And we are going to do a quick no spoilers review, which is our take on Civil War in 3 words.
Do you want me to start?
Yeah.
I'm going to say, meh, you know?
I'm going to say, not believable, dude.
And I'm going to say, I liked it.
So Zoe obviously dug the film. What was it about the film that you liked?
Yeah, I think...
Actually, before we get going, we should probably say that this is going to be a spoiler-riddled discussion. We're going to be talking about the entire thing. So if you have not seen Civil War yet, please, and you don't want it spoiled for you, please stop watching the video now.
See yourself
But it really
out.
won't hurt because if a movie's good, there's no such thing as a spoiler, in my opinion.
Yeah, so Charles wants you to just keep on watching it. I'm thinking I'm kind of wishy-washy on it, but then Zoe wants you to go to watch the movie.
Go see it.
And then watch this video.
I want
But
to
yeah.
poison your opinion before you even see it.
Oh.
That's my goal.
Hot take. No, there were 3 things that I really latched onto in the film. I think like the big cornerstone, I'm a girl's girl. And so the fact that the 2 main characters were 2 strong, independent women, this mother-daughter vibe, this mentor-mentee vibe, I really enjoyed that relationship and the arc throughout the movie. I thought the theme of the film was really well thought out, was really powerful. And as far as Alex Garland goes, some of his choices in the framing of it, in the shots, and in just moment to moments, I have like a list of highlights of things that like really stuck with me.
Right on. I do think that the cinematography was good and the shot selection was great and the shot design was really cool.
Oh, yeah.
But without a reason for those things to happen, I just have a hard time getting involved in the movie. Like, it didn't sit with me. It didn't pull me in. So
Yeah, it definitely had like the cadence of a movie that is profound. It had really interesting needle drops. It had a cool score. It had certain scenes that kind of like lifted above the ether and brought you into it, but it didn't quite hang on the clothesline correctly, if that makes sense. And then it also, once you start like analyzing it, it kind of falls apart in your hands. It's like lifting up sand. It kind of goes through your fingers. There's not a lot on its mind because I think what it's trying to do is it's trying to avoid any type of political polarization in the present day. It's trying to be like kind of 100% fantasy, and that's where like the setting gets brought up, which we should probably talk about the setting, which is really interesting. He makes a really weird move.
yes, the setting,
yeah.
are you talking about the Texas and California secession from
Yeah.
the United States?
Yeah, like
Which-
that's the stupidest idea for a setting, or for like basically the beginning of a movie ever. Because even off of the preview, I was not excited about seeing it because I'm like, this is so stupid. Texas and California band together and then are marching east towards Washington D.C. That's fucking stupid.
And the secession part too. So to me, it just wasn't believable. And as you're talking about that, the fact that at the end of the movie, just so you know, plug your ears if you don't want to hear this part, or turn it off and come watch it later. The Texas and California armies go in and basically breach Washington, D.C. as though they needed to attack Washington, D.C. for whatever reason. Like, if they seceded, like, I think it would be okay.
But they want to seize control of the entire country. They want it to be under this new government. And I will say this, I do agree. When I watched the preview, I was like, Texas and California are now best friends. Oh, hell no. And so my expectations going into the film were like at a 2 out of 10. So the fact, what drew me in and made those plot holes excusable was the relationship between Lee and Jesse, the mentor and the mentee, these photojournalists. One of them's in her 40s. She has seen some stuff, hard and tough. And the other one, you know what, she was 23 in the film?
Yeah, and she
Yeah.
looked like she was 12. Yeah.
She did. She looked very young. But like that relationship and that story made me not think about the politics of it or the minutia of this quote unquote civil war, which in my estimation in our country would not shake out that way. But it didn't really bother me. I was able to suspend my disbelief.
And then part of the reason why I gave it the meh, review, which is kind of middle of the road, is that I could tell that the movie was trying to not be kind of present day. It was trying to be kind of speaking to maybe like other generations. And also Alex Garland, it must be noted, is not from the United States. So basically he was just using U.S. iconography to kind of just paint like a kind of a meditation on what civil wars are like, irrespective of where they take place. So I think he was actually purposefully creating like a setting that didn't make any sense. I think it was. I think that. I don't know. Do you agree with me on that? Does that make sense? I don't know.
I understand that perspective. I just feel like they could have easily gone with something that actually happened. They could have covered a civil war that actually happened and then had the fantasy take place in that and used some truths that happened to give it some credibility. Like, oh, okay, well, this is what happened, in Syria during so many years, as things were unsettled, and they could have used some actual facts to help pull the audience in. I was just thinking about like a couple of the least believable moments for me were so this is a road trip movie. And the photographers and the journalist and then the young photographer are in a vehicle, plus the old guy. I should probably know Sammy. I should probably know some of these characters, but they're all kind of interchangeable, really. So they're all on this road trip together, and they're trying to get to Washington D.C. because they want to get an exclusive interview with the president or whatever
before the president is murdered, because they know that he's going to be murdered.
Oh, yeah. And he hasn't done any interviews in like months, and so like he's been like droning U.S. citizens, like murdering U.S. citizens, and he won't talk to the press. Like no one can get an interview. So yeah, they want the scoop.
So the motivation at the beginning of the movie made sense to me. So these characters obviously want to get somewhere, and there's a reason for them to want to get there. However, in the film, as they're on this road trip, it's revealed that the main character took a prize-winning photo roughly around 20 years previous while she was in college, and so she's this hardened person that has a jaded perspective towards Civil War. And even though she's been doing this for 20 plus years, they keep running into these situations where it feels like if she's been traveling around a country that's been falling apart for 20 years,
they wouldn't make those mistakes.
It would be, you would know who the people are, you would know which areas are going to be more dangerous than other areas, and you would still probably run into situations and they might be unexpected, but to give the character a little bit of knowledge and foresight into that, I think would have helped me believe the situation where, for example, another unbelievable situation was there's a scene where these two brand new characters are just appear out of nowhere. So they're on this road trip and there's not very many cars on the road because gas is hard to come by. And then these two random dudes just like pop up, and it turns out that they're friends with the guy that's in the passenger seat. And so they decide as they're moving to switch vehicles, and the young photographer gets excited about it. So she's like, oh, that's cool. Let me try it. And then they get separated in the vehicles, and then, chaos ensues. And then these two people that just appeared 15 minutes prior end up dead.
By neo-Nazis. These were
neo-Nazis,
not
yeah.
Western forces or U.S. military. I thought it was really interesting because that type of stuff would be exacerbated by a civil war. That type of violence, the neo-Nazis, these fringe groups.
I mean, that's what I did like about the movie, is that it made the fault lines kind of hard to predict, and I think that was actually part of the theme, because there was that one scene where they're pinned down by the snipers, and then he asks them, "Are you Western forces or are you part of the federal government?" And then the guy just says, "Does it even matter?" And then he looks over to the other journalist, is like, "Who's shooting at us? Somebody violent." And he's
Someone with a gun.
Someone with a gun, yeah. And then he goes, "See, it doesn't even matter." So I think part of the theme that Alex Garland was going after was that basically once a country reaches some sort of tipping point, which side you're on doesn't even matter anymore. Basically, it just descends into chaos and violence. And I think that's what he was trying to pull out. But in the end, he had to skip so many obvious things just to get to that spot. You know, like
it was a lot of givens. It was as the audience member, you just had to accept a lot of things. Like, oh, okay, well, it's California and Texas that have seceded. Oh, this is
the president. Okay, so the president is a dictator now. It's like, okay, I can kind of go with that.
Yeah,
the press can go anywhere if you say, "I'm press. I'm press." There was a lot of that. That was silly.
I have my press pass. Yeah,
I can go anywhere. Anybody's gonna take me into an assault with them, and then they're gonna move me forward to make sure I'm getting picture shots.
Even though,
which I got tired of that too, just as a creative.
I
decision.
love that. I love that stuff.
Well, it was cool. It was cool for a little bit, but then every time they got into an action sequence, it was like, well, we're gonna have. The movie could have been 20 minutes shorter, first of all, because I feel like the editing was super loose.
Well, I mean, it wasn't even that long of a movie, to be honest. It was an hour and 40 minutes.
That segment that we opened up with, there was a lot of fat that could have been trimmed on the other.
That's the stupidest scene of the movie, though. The one we just watched. Yeah,
that scene.
They just randomly drive through a town and like, oh, this place hasn't been touched, even though like 12 hours earlier they had slept in a refugee camp. It's like none of the refugees like wanted to get to this town that hasn't been touched, where you can literally go shopping.
But the weird part about that, and I think I just didn't get it, is that they're like, oh, we want to stay out of the Civil War. But then like they leave that boutique, and on the rooftop adjacent are two men with AK-47s, and they're not in uniform. They're dressed as if they're about to go golfing, and they're just chilling. I'm like, who? So it was confusing. It was like, well, what's happening in this town?
Well, I think what they were trying to convey is that basically it's an idyllic spot. It's like an oasis within all of this war, but it still isn't idyllic because they have to like have these people with guns on the rooftops to protect everyone. But that's not the way it would work. They would have like a moat. They would have like a border, and they would be checking people as they go in. Like, are you actually a resident of this town? I want to see some ID. You know?
Yeah.
It was just so divorced from reality to try to like convey this other point that violence is bad. It's like I already knew violence was bad before I went to the fucking theater.
Well, and I will loop back to what you were talking about, Charles, about the two characters that we did not know, and then all of a sudden were dead within like 5 minutes of meeting them. It was like, well, I don't care that they're dead. Like, yeah, sad, whatever, neo-Nazis suck. But like, I didn't know who they were. They meant nothing to me. But spoiler, you watched the movie already, guys. That was when Sammy got shot, and that one hurt. Like, I was so upset that he got shot, and they're driving away, and he's trying to be stoic. And then one of my highlights from the film, I just have to say, was what I'm calling the mourning scene, M-O-U-R-N, mourning scene after Sammy's death. The fire embers, the forest is on fire, the needle drop happens. And, like, after seeing all that violence and having a friend taken, Sammy taken from us, like, I needed that scene as, like a moment to recover before we went back into the war. I thought that was so artfully done.
Yeah, I mean, it was, again, it's like artfully done on like a textural basis, but it's not, I mean, it's the law of economy of characters. You get 4 people into a car, you know one of them's going to be dead. Is it going to be the old black guy? Probably. That's the guy. That's the guy who's going to die first, and then so you immediately know that like
okay, been a movie trick since
forever.
The horror movies in like the 70s. Is that?
Yeah,
it's definitely a trope.
Yeah, so 4 people get in, and then you assume that Kirsten Dunst isn't going to die at the. So you know either she survives or she doesn't. So you know at the very beginning that it's either going to be the daughter character or the mother character that's going to be killed. Yep. The mother character ends up getting killed, and then it ends up being some sort of statement on how indifferent we are to individuality in the world. I don't know. It's just. It didn't strike me as actual good drama, but I loved some of the shot by shot, like moment by moments of the movie, and that's why.
And the audio design and the needle drops. That they used.
It wasn't boring either, just because
it wasn't.
Yeah,
I will say that. Yeah, I agree that it wasn't boring. I think it could have been. I mean, what do you all think? For me, to make it better, would have been to just get rid of all of the Civil War aspect of it and just make it about 2 photojournalists or American Civil War aspect. Just remove that fantasy and make it about 2 photojournalists that are having like a mentor-mentee relationship, because that's really what the movie was about. I feel like it was supposed to be about that. And they did say at that one point that literally the theme is like they're jaded due to the fact that they're trying to inform the population with their pictures how awful things are. And yet the population is just, completely oblivious to that or doesn't really care. And their attempt at informing people of how nasty war can be is not being heard, or it's falling on deaf eyes because it's pictures. So I feel like just focusing on that and not adding the element of fantasy of U.S. Civil War, it probably would have been a much more enjoyable movie for me because it wouldn't have
But
had
that
all
would have
those-
required Alex Garland to do research. So if you make it
Yeah.
Or make it in outer space then. I don't know.
yeah. See, for me, I think to make the movie better, I think, well, two things. One, they should have actually been photojournalists and they should have actually mirrored the way photojournalists worked. Like when you get embedded with a platoon or with a squad, people are responsible for you. You've like, because they worked for Reuters. Reuters would have like talked to higher ups and generals or whatever, and they would have been like, okay, these two people are going to be with this troop. There would have been ways that that the squad wouldn't have shown them certain things, like, oh, wait, you can't see this. They would have been, putting like a smiley face on the whole Civil War. There was like lots of areas for satire there, I think. And then the other thing too is that anytime there's a road trip, I'm stealing this from David Mamet, you have to go to Seattle. And what I mean by that is that if he says, if there's a road trip movie and the objective is to go to this spot, you have to, at some point, usually it's at the end of the second act, you have to realize that where you're going isn't where you should go. You need to go someplace else. Doesn't have to be an actual spot, but it needs to be figurative. There weren't enough reversals in it. If you compare it between this movie and something like Children of Men, that movie,
which is post-apocalyptic,
which is all
road trip
basically.
movie.
If you don't want to spend the money to go to a theater to watch Civil War, just go watch Children of Men. It's kind of a similar movie and it's way better. But like that movie, like literally that main character, if you watch it, once he gets on the road trip, first his love interest dies immediately. Whoa, surprise! You thought that they were just going to get back together because it's like his ex-wife, right? And then right after that, he finds out that the people that he's traveling with are actually villains. So his friend, so there's betrayal, and that happens in the first hour. And then he has to go on a different road trip than the one road trip that he was set up with. This is just 4 people go to Washington, D.C., and then they get there.
Yeah.
And one of them dies, and you knew that one was going to die because he was the old black guy.
I think I agree with you, Bradley. I think I would have like really enjoyed a little bit more of reversals. I did find a lot of yummy morsels throughout the movie insofar as the relationship, but like overall plot structure, I think I agree that would have helped the movie. And like also, if you are gonna set a civil war in America, like do your research and have some teeth. And like,
well, yeah, be okay pissing people off. I think that's part of the thing because this movie pisses off no people, and it's about an American Civil War.
Yeah.
Think
It
about
should
that.
piss off everybody if it's well done.
Yeah, it should piss off
Left and right wing. I think, both
Democrats
sides.
should look at this movie and be like, "No, that's stupid," and then in Republicans
because
as well.
we're the good guys.
Yeah,
yeah.
And then the other side's like, no, we're the good guys, but then everybody's awful in war. And so if they just showed all sides as being just completely horrible, which I guess they
kind of did. Well, no, he just did it very toothlessly. Because, the New York, because remember, the East Coast liberals in this society are actually siding with the fascist.
Yeah.
So I guess that's he kind of did that, but it still was too muddled. It was too muddy.
I think it was because they were making them ride bicycles because they didn't have enough gas.
Yeah, and then they don't have
that
the
was-
regular.
I
That was a cool
forgot.
shot though with all of them in New York. I'm like, I don't know how they
Yeah.
did that if they fixed that in post or took a long exposure to get what's all the
It was a
different-
very expensive movie. That's for sure.
Yeah,
It was.
Could not have been cheap.
Not cheap at all. When they were airlifting out the tanks,
Yeah.
I was like, that's so expensive.
Plus that grave with like the 50 bodies in it. That
Oh
would have
my
been hard to
God.
collect that many cadavers.
And then or kill that many people.
Yeah.
It's
a
not-
lot of labor.
A lot of covering up, which is expensive.
Yeah.
I know. Payoff.
The politicians would know how to do it though.
Yeah, for sure.
They could have covered that.
All right.
I think that's
Yeah.
So we're just saying. I'm saying you can save time. Just wait for it to come out. If you're really curious, just wait for it to come out on streaming.
I'm gonna say meh. I'm gonna stay with my meh review.
Go see it, you silly geese.
All right, sign off, huh?
All right, everyone.
How do we sign off again?
If you go see the movie or already have, please drop in the comments what you thought. We'd love to hear your thoughts on it. The link to our newsletter is going to be in the description. If you want to sign up, see some exclusive content. Not only are we critics of films, we also make films. So if you want some exclusive content, sign up for the newsletter.
And then also subscribe to our YouTube channel too.
Yeah, like and subscribe if you want to see more of our silly
Yeah, we got
faces.
original content on here. We're much less critical of our own materials than other people's, but
Yeah.
I guess maybe there's a slight bias. At least I am.
Civil War was awful, but you know what was great? The 4th episode of Chit Chat.
Oh, that was a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, why are we promoting this movie? Go watch Chit Chat.
Yeah, exactly.
Just kidding.
All right.
Adios, everybody.
Signing off.
Signing off.